So we're gonna look at rewiring this tractor. It still obviously has the generator, has most of the factory wiring in it still, and it is still 6-volt. So what we've got is some repairs that were made. This tractor actually caught fire a few years ago. The previous owner told me anyway that that's what happened. I think the voltage regulator stuck wide open and it just went nuts and fried all the wiring. So he just, to make it run again, he chopped it back and spliced in some wire and just kind of zip tied it and just rock and roll, I guess. So anyway, we're gonna go through and clean all this up. It needs new battery cables bad. I'll show you those. This battery cable is pretty well trashed. It's got, nasty old end on it. It's got this conduit stuff that International put on there. A lot of their wiring on these, it turns over slow. It always starts, but it turns over slow. I don't think the charging system works as good as it could according to the ammeter anyway in the dash. So we're gonna test that. We're gonna actually go through it and see what's actually going on. Another thing we're gonna do is, it's got the ground cable just goes to the top plate of the rear end down here. I'm going to run a full length around all the way up through here with this and go straight to the starter. That's the most effective way to do a ground on a 6-volt tractor, because you don't really have ground issues like with the coil or the lights or anything, but getting a good solid ground to your starter is the main thing that's going to cause these to turn over fast, especially when it's cold. So that's what we're going to be doing. All right, so I've undid all the wiring through here, took the dash apart, undid the wiring from the lights, there and there. Getting there. Just a little bit more undoing to be able to start running new wires. People make a big deal out of rewiring tractors and stuff. It's really pretty simple. There's not a whole lot of wiring in it. And so that's like 5 feet tops. So it's all pulled out of there. Now we're gonna start running new wires. All right, so I started with my ignition wire. So I just kind of loosely lay it in here, route it sort of semi where it's gonna go, and hold it up here. Kind of route it where it's supposed to go, and then just kind of hold it up. Like, all right, I've got enough to get in the center of the box. There should be plenty once we actually get it routed the way it needs to. Then I'll hook it on this end and I'll just leave it loose until I am ready to do the whole thing. These are what I'm using. You just knock the colored plastic piece off and you end up with something like this. Then you heat shrink it and you get something like that. So we flip this regulator around. That way the wires are a little bit shorter, looks a little cleaner. There are wires routed all back up. All right, so these are really simply wired, okay? And it makes total sense if you really sit back and think about it. So your amp gauge here shows your positive and negative power going to and from the battery. So this wire, which is this one with the big end on it, goes to your hot side of the battery. This wire goes to the battery terminal on your 4-pole regulator. Now, if you're using a 3-pole or one of the older style ones where you have a low and high charge setting in your headlight switch, that's entirely different story. But yeah, so this is labeled as the positive side of the ammeter, goes to the battery terminal on the regulator. Now, the load terminal on your 4-pole regulator, which is this one, goes directly to the positive side of your ignition switch. Okay? And then obviously, or not positive side, but your hot side of the ignition switch. Now this is the switched side So this wire goes to your distributor. Make sense? Probably not. So basically, in short, the power comes in here from the battery, goes out to the generator from here, comes back in from the generator here. Okay. All right, so we got all the wiring here. It's all wrapped. Got our wire from our distributor run through there. It's hooked all the way across through there. We made one boo-boo. This yellow wire come from the regulator. I didn't get it quite long enough, had to splice a piece on here. It's one of those situations where do as I say, not as I do. I would never do this if I wasn't in a big rush right now, which, you know, haste makes waste, so I was in a rush. I didn't leave myself enough length on the wire. I should have known to fly that out a little bit longer, but, you know, it's get in a rush, you make mistakes. I don't think it'll hurt anything. It's inside the box. It's not a big deal. You'll never know it's there. But, you know, just something to keep in mind. If you think you got enough, leave yourself 3 more inches. Wire's not that expensive. Alright, got that all put back together. One thing I'm not doing today is I'm not touching the lights. I don't have a light for the right side of this tractor, and I'm going to be changing this light bar out completely anyway because it's all welded up and trashed. So I still got to come up with the light because this has got sealed beams because this is a super tractor. But I got one thing I'm going to deviate from the original wiring is I'm going to run my own 10 gauge power right straight to the post on the battery instead of running it down to the starter through the harness. I don't like adding 6 more feet of wire to go around in a circle when the box is 8 inches from the post. I'll put it in some kind of a loom or a piece of pipe or something to keep it safe where it won't get damaged, but that's just me. I like to run as few of inches of wire as possible. And so we're already putting new cables on it, so I don't think it's not going to be a big deal to just do that. And this isn't the final answer for the wiring on this anyway because of the lights, and we don't have a work light on it yet either, so can't do anything there. You know, there's a lot that needs done to this tractor before it gets ready for paint, so we're nowhere near the level of needing to worry about perfect yet. So alright, so here's the cable we're going to use. I got this stuff off Amazon. This is super flexible 1/0. I don't know if we can get that to focus. Yeah, there we go. Super fine. A buddy of mine put me onto this. It's from, like I say, I got it on Amazon, but he gets it and uses it in his stereo equipment. He's a car audio guy, and this is perfect for doing something like this. This has got a huge amp carrying capacity, and it's super flexible. We can route it right where we want to. No problem whatsoever with this. Alright, so got our new cables run. I gotta put some zip ties or something along here to kind of tie them all together, take some stress off, wrap it around through here, right into the box. Now, when you do any electrical stuff, the first thing you want to do when you go to hook the battery back up is, okay, no spark show. Now we're gonna stick it. Don't smell anything, don't hear anything. All right, we must be good. You never know when you're gonna screw something up. Just absent-mindedly, you never know. But, so, on these, this tractor's still 6-volt positive ground. Okay? I've got, there's the part number, 4-4, it's a 975. It's a big 6-volt, okay? This thing turns over quite fast. for a 6-volt. And I think that's attributed to having good cables, good grounds, plenty of amps in that battery. So now we're going to check out, see if the charging system works, and go from there. All right, here we go. See if it works. Look at that. Perfect. All right, so it's about 2 hours later from the last clip. As it turns out, the ammeter was wired backwards, so when it was showing a charge, it was actually showing a discharge. So we fixed that. And I monkeyed around with this thing for 2 hours trying to figure out why it wouldn't charge. Thinking the regulator was bad. I just wanted to make 100% sure that it was bad because I wasn't really getting anywhere with that. And I cleaned the contacts in the regulator and a bunch of stuff. Played around with a bunch of different tests. And see, this is a 4-pole regulator, so it's a little bit different. Most of the stuff you can find online about testing regulators is the 3-pole stuff. But after substantial research, I elected that I didn't understand why it wouldn't work. It was supposed to work. And so I took the dust cover off and messed around with the brushes, and I don't know, I was trying to run more tests, and then all of a sudden it started working. So don't know what its deal was, but now it works. And once I actually got it to physically work, then I adjusted the regulator up to where it's making about 7.1 volts, which is about right as I understand it at wide open. That could be a little hotter than it needs to be, I don't know, but it much better than it was, because it was making, when I finally did get it to work, it was making about 6.2, so it was basically breaking even. But yeah, so I'm gonna fire it up and I'll show you what the amp gauge says now that it's all supposedly functioning correct. So as you can see at the battery, it's actually showing about 6.6, 6.5. So I was testing it at the actual regulator. So there's a little bit of a voltage drop between here and there, but no big deal. 6.6 is plenty to keep it charged. It's already, and you saw it's maxing out the amp gauge compared to what it did before, so should be in good shape. I hope everybody got something out of this video. It's definitely something that's been on my to-do list for a while. That's definitely a mission accomplished as far as I'm concerned. Now I just need to do the lights.